Okay, on the Reddit questions and answers, here is one by Young Denver that even my written answer is very long to this person, and this video may get a little long because this is year 30, almost 31 in this industry, and this has been the most confounding thing to talk about. I don't know that I'm going to be able to be concise in this video here. But the question is, what is your typical price per square foot for building in Dallas? It really doesn't matter if we're in Dallas or somewhere else. Let me go down the rabbit hole of price per square foot. I try to be as concise as I can so this doesn't get too long. I don't have a chalkboard here, and I'm not going to be able to put stuff up on the screen, so I'm going to try to verbalize the price per square foot conundrum that I see all the time. It's the most misunderstood element in home building. Almost every consumer out there tends to focus on it as though that's how builders price homes. It's really not. It is more how people selling older homes price their homes. So you can be in a neighborhood where homes are 20 years old, 30 years old, whatever it is, a pre-existing home. You are looking at what the values are, and that's based on what homes sell for, in the past year that are comparable to what you're selling, what the values the appraisers are giving those sellers, which is then building your value. And you may be wanting to sell your home. It's 20 years old in the neighborhood you're in, and you look and say, okay, the comparable sales look like our home's worth $250 a square foot. That's what we're going to list it for. If you've lived in the home for a long time, that's probably way more than you ever paid for it, right? Now we get over into new construction, and it's a completely different animal. It's not based on the valuation per se. It's based on the cost, the actual cost that we might have paid for the land, that we might have paid for, the materials and labor. And they can be all over the map depending on what you paid for the land and then what's involved with the house build. So let me try to give you the easiest example I can of this. Price per square foot. Well, let me back up. Let me explain what price per square foot is. Price per square foot is just the mathematical result of dividing the square footage of a home into the cost or the price. I say cost or price because one could be a builder. I'm just looking at what does this home cost to build, and I say, okay, it's costing me X amount per square foot. Or you could be a builder selling a spec home, and you go, okay, I'm selling it for this much money, so I divide the square footage into that, and this home runs about this much per foot retail. So it's just the math, and where it gets tricky is there is no one-size-fits-all when you're talking about cost per square foot. Why is that? Well, let's just use an example of we are looking at two completely flat lots in the same neighborhood that we want to build a house on. We already know what the house is. We've got the price for that. We know what that's going to cost. The lots themselves both require the exact same amount of preparation. They're in the same neighborhood, so they have the same utility connections and all that. The only difference is this lot is $100,000 and this lot is $200,000. It's a $100,000 delta between the two lots. So that is going to be an additional $100,000 if you buy the expensive lot on your project, or it's $100,000 less if you go with the less expensive lot. So I'm going to reach over here in my good old trusty adding machine that you will literally hear calculating because I run the paper in it. And for some examples of what that means, let's say you're building a 3,000 square foot house. That's 3,000 square foot conditioned living space. If you take $100,000 and divide it, bear with me, $100,000 divided by 3,000, you end up with 33.33 per square foot. That's how much that lot attributes to that house. It's $33 a square foot for the $100,000 lot. Let's do the same thing for the $200,000 lot. 200,000 divided by 3,000 square feet. It's $66.67 a square foot. So obviously it was 33.3 times 2 there because of that example of the lot price difference. But point is, going $100,000 more on this 3,000 square foot home added another $33 a square foot. That's just lot price. Let's say you've got two homes that are maybe about the same size on paper, but they're completely different animals with their design. One is fairly basic, almost like a tract home. The other is super complex geometry of the design, very custom with high roof pitches and all that. That house is going to cost way more than the basic designed house. It's got more lumber in it, more labor, all these things going on with it. So it will be higher per square foot, even though it's about the same size as the other one. Finish out. Are you putting average stuff in there, or is it going to be the Taj Mahal? Insulation packages, you know, roofing types. All of these things can cause huge variances between homes of basically the same size. A great one is lot preparation to talk about. We, about 2 years ago, had two 4,000 square foot homes going on two different lots. One was on one of the flattest lots I've ever built on, minimal amount of lot preparation. We might have spent $20,000 to bring some dirt in, flatten a pad for the house. Other one was being built on the side of a hill with a forest full of trees that was probably $175,000 by the time we were all done with everything just to build on that lot. And so those two homes were similar in size, but had completely different preparation costs to build on each lot. So even if you had been putting the same house on both lots, one would have been substantially more expensive because of all that lot preparation, because of the lot itself. So this is why saying what is your cost per square foot isn't really something a builder can answer. Maybe if you're a tract builder and you're building 5 plans and you know generally the kind of homes you build, what they're going to cost, you can give that kind of answer. For me, the homes are all over the map, as are the costs to build on the lots and a lot of the other things we have to do, you know, the finish outs and whatnot. So what I will tell people is I can give you a ballpark, and it's going to be for a ballpark house with this many garage and this many bedrooms and an average budgets for lots. But in the end, as a custom builder, I need to have a set of construction plans that we can actually get quoted out, get estimated. And the same thing is, you know, if you don't have a lot yet, then all we can do is load in some basic budgets. And then when you get your lot, we're going to have to look at it and see what it's going to take to build on that property. So again, rabbit hole, I knew I was going to go down that rabbit hole. But that's the thing about cost per foot. It is not how we price homes. As a matter of fact, I've got my estimation sheet, and I don't know what that number is going to be down at the bottom, the cost per square foot number, until I've loaded in all these items, and then I look at it. And sometimes I look at, you know, that bottom cost per square foot number, and I go, that house is pretty economical to build. I'll look at another and say, wow, that one's really high dollar per square foot. Just had that with a house actually, where it sits really far back from the street. So it's got a long concrete driveway. We're talking 130 feet or something like that of driveway alone, circle drive. Then the house itself has a greenhouse. It has 3 unfinished spaces upstairs that are kind of like bonus room spaces. Now, when you think about all this kind of stuff, that's all cost that is not captured in the conditioned living footage. So it had big porches and patios and all kinds of stuff like that too. So in the end, all that stuff costs money, but yet it's not part of the living footage. And so it a little bit like saying, okay, well, it was a house that had a 10-car garage on it. It just had a lot of added expense. So when I looked at the cost per square foot, it was really high. But it's high because it has all these other spaces that aren't part of the living footage, conditioned living footage, but they are still part of the house. And so that ramped up the cost per foot. The flip side, we built one this year that was a fairly modest design, low roof pitches, 1-story, hardy siding type of house. The finish out was fairly low end. They didn't have us doing landscape, and it was surprisingly low cost per square foot, relatively speaking, for this day and age because of all those elements. So, just depends on the house plan and all these other variables. But again, there's my long-winded question. Anytime you talk about cost per square foot, it sends me down that rabbit hole. But I think it's helpful if people know this because it's probably the most misunderstood element in home building.